Here.
Vice Chair Brady. Here. Commissioner Clemens.
Here.
Commissioner Nibbit.
Here.
Commissioner Liker.
Here.
Commissioner Madrid.
Here. Here.
Commissioner Owens.
Almost.
So is that a half?
Yeah.
Commissioner Yu. Here. And Commissioner Jackson.
Okay. Minutes now.
We can, so Dennis is out, he's having another surgery on his back. So that's why he's missed a couple of meetings and he's away today. So I believe his surgery is actually today as we're speaking. So, send him good vibes and prayers that he heals quickly. It's an old injury, work-related from his fireman.
Okay, Kay, would you like to lead us in the pledge? Now that, yeah, you got your own mouth. I was watching, waiting for you to take that bite.
Ready?
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right, I think you all got your packets. Did you read the minutes? Do we have any corrections or additions to the minutes?
Yes,
Okay, what is it,
I have to get them out.
I need to be more formal. Commissioner Langer.
Oh, my.
Well, I thought I should.
On page 2 of 3, in the middle of the page on item number, new business number 2, subject Ray Law Ventura. These are the people that, had recused themselves, and I was one of them, so my name needs to be added to the Gray Law.
Oh, yeah, I thought it was, yeah,
Okay.
I have to be excused, so do you.
So that was
But
one thing,
I
and then,
would be.
then my question
That's,
is,
maybe that's where the arrow is.
Yeah, it should be, instead of me, it should be you.
okay, so that's the, that's how that.
That's a correction.
And then
So
you
under
see,
gray law, it's Brainerd, Lanker, and Owens who are.
Right.
right,
Yeah.
Okay.
and then I left early, so they even have that at that bottom, that I left it, well, I left on time, the meeting went longer, so. Anyway, that I left, and then there's some other items, so then on page 3, at the very top, Vice Chair Brainerd, motion, and Commissioner Lincoln second, I don't believe that one was me either, so, because I was already gone. So I don't know who seconded it,
I did.
okay? Commissioner Clemens, and then adjournment. Again, my name is on that I voted to adjourn and I was gone.
Mary
Well,
Sue
I'm-
is liking you that name.
Well, Clark is on there as.
I just, like I said, I just saw my name a few times, it's like, I don't think so. And so those were my corrections.
Okay.
I was, another organization belonged to, and it had that this guy was, there, and he was absent, and I said, well, nobody missed you, you know?
Oh, my.
We just thought we heard you.
Really?
So we have 2 corrections,
That was 3.
3 corrections, yes. Changing my name to
Okay.
Lanker under gray law.
And then on page 3, Lanker to Clemens, and then the leading on both Lanker and Owens, that we had hoped at adjournment.
Okay. So may I have a motion?
Oh, motion.
Okay,
Second.
it's been moved by Commissioner Lanker, seconded by Commissioner Owens, that the changes be made to the minutes as noted. All in favor, raise their right hand, please. Anybody opposed? Okay, those changes are noted and the minutes are approved as corrected. So, Oh, do we have any public comments? None. Okay. Oh, I guess we should have done that. Okay, so we go to presentation to the commission, and we're happy to have our Shopaholic representative, and welcome.
Well, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here for a couple of reasons. I'm Tony Miller from Shopaholic, and referring back to the couple of reasons, it's my pleasure to be here and represent those we serve. It's my pleasure to have been here before, and I've enjoyed it, and I hope I present the same thing well for all of you. Shopaholic is a nonprofit organization in Ventura County, 501c3. We serve 5 cities, including, of course, Oxnard. Much of what I say is inclusive of all the cities and all the organizations. Excuse me.
She's trying to get you on camera. We televise our.
Oh, I didn't know I would be.
I'll be talking to your crowd.
Thank you. We have a few varieties because of the local situations. Basically, we have one mission, and that is to serve senior citizens, helping them by shopping and delivering groceries to them each week. The mission portrays itself in that we try our best to help people remain as independent as possible in their own homes. That takes the flavor of calling them once a week. They give their grocery order over the phone to the volunteer caller. We encourage very much them to feel very comfortable being very specific on what they're ordering, because we want to get them what they like. If you're 90 years old, as all of us do, we have certain likes and traditional flavors, and that's what we want to get them. We don't want to, I use the example, there must be a dozen varieties of Bush's baked beans. Well, if you like honey and syrup baked beans, we don't want to get you a different flavor. So that's done in Oxnard every Monday when we call. We have no restrictions on their orders, so they can order as much as they want or as little. That ranges from one item to a family which might fill 2 grocery carts from their order. Incidentally, the one item I experienced, the lady wanted a greeting card. But we couldn't call her then that morning to find out what's the card for. So,
Birthday or.
whatever, it could, gosh. Anyway, here again, no restrictions. And by the way, they don't have to order every week. If the cupboard's full, then all they have to do is say, I don't need anything this week. We'll call them next week. Every Tuesday morning then, we meet at Victoria and Woolley, the volunteers. The orders are all printed out by aisle, by brand, volume, notes saying, here again, I don't want Progresso light soup, I want Campbell's chicken noodle with full flavor. That's all printed out for the shoppers. Usually in Oxnard, those orders are all filled about 11:30. roughly. It varies, of course, with the number of orders and the number of volunteers. We pay for everything at the store. The leader writes a check to Vons for all the orders, although the Vons checkers always run an individual tab, so that the next step being, we deliver to the people's homes. At which point they are given a receipt from Vons for their order, and then they do pay for their, and I'll explain that in a moment, but they do basically pay for their order. They give the check, preferably, once in a while cash, to the volunteer who has already a stamped addressed envelope, so that they take care of turning that in. We don't ask the people, if you're in a wheelchair, how can you mail things? So now, regarding paying, here again, one of the privileges I have representing Shop Boulevard here is that in Oxnard, we subsidize the people we serve. By your graciousness, having given us grants currently and in the past, we reduce everything on their order and subsidize the people until the grant runs out. That process then, calling on Mondays, shopping and delivering on Tuesdays, is repeated each week. And that's short of a holiday. That is true 52 weeks a year. Most of, I should say many, not most, many of the people we serve are physically, obviously incapable. They can't go to the store for their foods. Many are in wheelchairs, use walkers. Some people can go to the store, but if you have a walker with a little basket in the front, you can't carry anything home. So while we say, bad term, disabled, it's just the fact that we can get everything for them and bring them to their homes. In many cases, especially with frozen food, we use refrigerated bags. So for the frozen and refrigerated items, generally, unless we're told not to, we put everything away for them. And I say that because my wife would never allow somebody to put everything. She knows exactly where it belongs, so she would say, just put it here on the counter and I'll take care of it. So that's basically what we do. We have no employees in the organization. We're all volunteers. Our mission, once again, is to help people remain as independent as possible in their own homes. One might call it a byproduct of what we do is the development of a relationship with the people we serve. You won't find it in the brochure. Well, you will see a little reference to it, but many of the volunteers, because we try to shop for the same people and deliver for the same people, although we can't always do that, but as that develops, people develop relationships. And many of the volunteers not only shop and deliver on Tuesdays, but during the week, they'll go back and help somebody. Hairdresser, doctor's appointments, and sometimes just to go visit and be able to sit and talk and nice time together. Because, we're fortunate to be here this morning, but I served a lady for about 9 years. I don't think she lived on the 3rd floor of an apartment. I don't think the last year or two she ever left her apartment. Now, part of that was health, of course, but partly she just didn't get out. And so in someone in those circumstances, to visit with them and just sit and talk and have a cup of coffee is a real benefit to them and rather selfishly to us. That's not true of everyone. Of course, the volunteers are not required to do that. They do that because they too have a mission, and that is to serve the people. Okay, I'll go on for a long time.
If I
but
could just
so-
interrupt, I had the pleasure of meeting Tony and going into Vaughn's a couple of Tuesdays ago, 2-3 weeks ago. And I got to meet the coordinator. I don't know if is she just for Oxnard or?
Just off, come on.
Yeah, I got to meet the coordinator, I got to meet a couple of the volunteers. Then they wanted me to come because they had work to do. So they schmoozed for a few minutes and they were ready to get their job done. One of them had a young daughter, young child, maybe a 2 or 3 year old with them. And I had the impression these were all going to be people who look like Tony and that stuff. But one of the vols was a gentleman in our age group. The other ones were kind of younger women with kids, and it was like, oh, these people. I mean, I was really impressed by just the passion they had for the program. The fact that Tony said they almost function like social workers, with their constituents. That it's more than getting groceries to the house for many of them. And the most impressive thing is the shopping lists. And I think Tony glossed over it, that they're detailed, they're laid out. But if my wife gave me a shopping list like this, I would be in and out of the store in 10 minutes. I mean, they are very focused on, and I'm looking at the list, and it's not only like Dawn liquid detergent, but it's Dawn liquid meadow scent. They had, as Tony said, they had their specific, and it was really an impressive thing. I was so motivated, I ended up shopping with them. Brought groceries home to my wife, and she said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I was in the store." I was really motivated, but it's a wonderful service.
Yes, sir.
Tony, in your estimation, are all of the seniors in Oxnard who should be using the service, are they? And why not? Or what can we do to encourage that too?
Oh, boy. Answering the former part, no. My term, infinitesimal, small number. And we wish, oh man, we wish we could serve far more. How we reach people it takes on a variety of things. We do advertise. We have tried some advertising. We have not found that to be, we never could trace that it was very effective. We go to fairs, we go to programs sponsoring this type of activity throughout the county as much as possible. I don't think we've turned any invitation down the last couple of years. And we have brochures, some of which I'll distribute this morning. But basically, anecdotally, it's word of mouth. Word of mouth.
Yeah.
We get a lot of referrals from agencies, hospitals, I forget the term, the discharged nurses sometimes call and say, John Jones is ready to go home. He has nobody at home, and can you help him? You know, that sort of thing.
If for some reason you were fortunate enough to increase the number of recipients, I assume the number of volunteers would follow?
Not always. Both sides of that equation, the numbers we serve and the volunteers cycling, independent of each other. Sometimes we have almost, well, I shouldn't say too many volunteers, but we've had plenty of volunteers. And then the cycle turns and all of a sudden we're scrambling. The volunteers are making 3 deliveries instead of 2 and 4 instead of 3, that sort of thing.
One last question, I'm sorry.
Sure, no,
The
please.
grant that you're requesting, how would that be used specifically? I know you mentioned it earlier.
Specifically, rebating, cutting the people's grocery bills in half.
That's enough.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you.
We want to turn it back
Yeah.
directly to them.
And didn't you tell me there was because Oxnard gives you a grant, there's an extra kicker for the extra discount for the Oxnard residents?
Yes, yeah. Mhm.
I think 2 of my neighbors are utilizing it. One of them said that they get a check or they get a refund or something, $10 a month.
But that's part of the
Grant.
quote kickback to
Good,
them,
good.
turning it back to them, yes.
Thank you. Yeah.
No, you've been.
Okay, my question is there some type of criteria? Obviously, Oxnard is a very diversified community economically. And so is there a criteria for this, for the reduction in price? Is it based on need or does everybody get it across the board?
The latter, we've done it across the board.
Yeah,
Partly because we're not in a position to screen somebody's economic status.
uh-huh.
Some of the volunteers pick up on
I guess
some
my
of the
question,
situations.
my follow-up question, you don't have to necessarily screen them, but maybe taking it for their, of their word for it, but, it seems that if there was some type of criteria, that those people that are needing it the most would receive it, and maybe somebody that is, more affluent would not be taking that. And so, it was just a thought.
No, that's a good point. In 1 or 2 cases I'm aware of, the affluent person to whom you're referring doesn't accept it, or they donate back to
I see.
to us. But that's more their choice than our directive.
Thank you.
You're just fanning
Yeah.
yourself.
If this were an auction.
You shopped at Vaughn's in Oxnard, but your people in Camarillo, you shop at a different store?
No, we, in the 5 cities, we shop at Vaughn's.
Everybody,
But funds in those cities.
oh, you
But
shop
they're
at Vaughn's?
independent, yeah. The Camarillo volunteers are not here in Oxnard shopping. Each is an independent group of volunteers.
And the other question I have, I don't know in your grant application, for the whole program, what percentage of your program is in Oxnard? Say you have 100 people that you shop for, do you know proportionately?
Oh, gosh, boy,
Yeah, I thought you told me we do about 25
yeah,
Oxnard people a week.
probably, close to 20%. That's really just kind of broad brush, but yeah, I'd say close to 20%.
It's always such a feel-good moment when you come. I just think what you do is, your service, your kindness is just, it's wonderful.
Well, I thank you, and I'm saying thank you on behalf of all of us. We have some of the volunteers, 10, 12 years that have been with us.
So do we have any more questions for Tony?
You use, the members use their own transportation.
Yes, yeah, the volunteers, once again, we have no employees. The volunteers drive their own cars, buy their own gas, et cetera, et cetera. Some of the callers, who are volunteers as well, of course, they are required to have a computer and a fax machine and a printer. Because when they complete their calls on Monday, that's sent to the leader and printed out, to which Mr. Nevitt referred for Tuesday morning. We at least once, generally it's been once a year, we buy gift cards from Vons and give to the volunteers. From their standpoint, it's more a gesture of appreciation and a recognition than it is the value of the card. And some of them, and far more than I'm aware of, give the gift cards then to the people they serve. So here's.
So I realize it's cyclical, but at any one time, how many volunteers and how many recipients are there?
Well, it varies. I'll answer it. It varies. People don't have to shop every week. So some people just shop twice a month. But in answer to that, probably I'm going to smooth it out a little bit. There 15 people were serving on a given Tuesday. You might have 5 or 6 volunteers. Sometimes you might have 10, but we don't make them, they're free to come and go as they choose. We ask them to tell the leader, if you're not going to be here next week. So it varies.
Thank you so much, Tony.
Thank you.
Thank you for everything you do.
Thank you very much.
Good to
Appreciate it.
see you. Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, brochures.
Yeah.
Usually I wait till I get in the car to do this.
Thank you.
I was gonna get you before you.
Do you help provide volunteers?
I do, and he also came and spoke, Tony came and spoke to my phone builder buddies. Last week, so I want to do a legislation information back.
Needs help, they just call me.
Thank you very much, Mr.
Oh, you're
Taylor.
very welcome.
And I hope
Thanks
you
again.
have you well.
Wish you well. Thank you.
Wish you well.
Okay. You got the easy one this year, Jeff.
Thanks again, Tony.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what it's.
You know how easy it was? The Vons they shop in is literally almost downstairs from where we live.
Okay.
So, and there's a Starbucks in the Vons.
Yeah.
You're gonna go
So
past
leave it
them
all
all the
easy.
How much
time.
better can it get?
Okay, Renee, you have a report for the
Thanks,
commission?
Yes, so as promised, Deanna has joined us at today's
Oh,
meeting.
yes.
So
Oh,
this
yes.
is, this is Deanna Marquez.
Deanna?
I'll let her tell a little bit about her background and where she came from. But she's basically overseeing all of our senior services programming within the centers, outside of the centers, including senior nutrition. So it's a nice addition to the team, having another set of working hands and feet running the ground. So I've already seen production happening just in the few weeks she has been with us. So it's going to be a great addition and well needed.
I'm excited to be here. Thank you all. I know I've seen a few of you guys around already. I spent the last about 4 years working at Goodwill Industries. I worked in the corporate office. Many people ask me about the stores and the deals with the stores. I didn't work directly with the stores. I worked in the corporate office. And I was a project manager for 2 different projects over there. One was a subsidized employment program, and one was overseeing a job preparedness class for CalWorks recipients. So people who are on aid, trying to get off of aid, looking for employment. And before that, I actually worked at Costa Pacifica with youth. So I've definitely been around in the community a lot, working with a lot of individuals. So yeah, I'm happy to be here, happy to join the team, and get to know you all.
And she'll be sharing some of the stuff that she's been working on on our senior programming within the agenda. We'll get a little update. The other item that I just want to touch on, so we had the November 7th, the project manager, and I'll let Kay touch on that, but it was approved to get a project manager for the new senior center. The other item is going on the 28th, which is the approval of your recommendations that you will make and finalize today for the senior grant. So I'd highly encourage you all to attend. There are questions that do get sent back to us during that meeting. You know, why at City Council? You know, why did you make this decision versus that? So I encourage you to be at that City Council meeting. Again, that's November 28th, 6 p.m. in council chambers. Then our last couple of dates, December 2nd is our holiday parade. And I have Commissioner Owens, Commissioner Lanker, Commissioner Sweetland, and Commissioner Clemens marked down to represent the commission in that holiday parade. So I will send details to the 4 of you as we get closer. We'll meet at the Wilson Center and give you a ride on over to the parade. And our last one, December 14th, is our big holiday party. I'm not going to say too much about that because Deanna's going to touch on it, but December 14th, 10 a.m. at the Performing Arts Center again. December 14th. And that's it.
Thank you. Okay, moving right along, somebody's phone's ringing. We're going to now revisit the grant applications. You all had a packet and you have your scoring sheets. And Kathy, I think you understand, I give you that. Okay. So,
I will need your scoring sheets at the conclusion of today's meeting. We are going to keep those on file. So if you have those, I don't need those completed.
So I think we talked and kind of picked amounts or suggestions for amounts for each group. And we ended up with, we have an extra $2,650. So we need to go back and plug them in. Yes, okay.
I would like to recommend that we give another 1,000, seems that we got 2,650 to the Livingston Memorial. That is really 2 groups. Last year we gave to caregivers and the Camarillo Hospice the total of 855, and we, according to this sheet of paper, only recommended as if they were one group. And it really is 2 groups that we've been giving to in the last number of years. So I'd like to raise that to 6,500, so 1,000 of that goes there. Because I think it's, you know, when a group combines, that means the top overhead gets shared, and so they don't have as much overhead expenses. And I think they deserve, you know, that. Making it 6.6 or 6.5.
Okay, do you think that we should go one by one, or should we just,
I think so.
oh, I know, I recused myself from that one.
Yeah.
So that's Kay's recommendation, but let's go to action again. We,
Gave them a big bump this year.
yeah, they were asking 2,500, last year we gave 19. So does everybody have their scoring sheet? Do you feel any differently about the 2,500? They're asking 2,500, we're giving them what they're
It's
asking.
the only group that we're giving them what they asked for, and to me, that's not quite fair.
Okay, anybody else have an opinion about that?
Well, I don't know if it's really a question of fairness. We're looking at a $2,500 amount, which doesn't seem to be too substantial. And the things that they wind up doing, they're a smaller organization, so their budget is not nearly as great as some of these others that we're giving money to. I would suggest that we continue with the 2,500 for this group, but that's only one opinion.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay, so we have,
Yeah, 3 and 3.
so should we vote individually?
Yeah, I would say raise of hands if
Okay,
it's fine.
so everybody in favor of awarding action $2,500, raise your right hand. And,
I'd like to recuse myself from voting, all of it,
oh, okay,
based on my note the last time. And I feel the process itself is kind of antiquated.
okay. So everybody but Commissioner Clemens, so we'll stick with that. How about caregivers? How does the group feel about caregivers?
I think it's fine the way it is.
We gave them 5,700, so we're dropping them 700. So I would give them more money if I were doing it. But I guess we should vote, everybody in favor of giving them 5,000, raise your hand. Okay. Catholic Charities, that's Oasis, and they're asking 10,000, and we said 5,000. Kathy shaking.
No, I'm good with the 5,000. That's what
Okay,
I
so
suggested.
everybody want to stick with 5,000?
Everyone's hands.
Yeah.
Everybody's hands up. Lourdes, I can barely see you.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah, okay. Okay, Elder Pride, they're asking 5,000 and we're giving them 4,000. Based on today, I'd say give them another 500.
Yeah, at least. The thing I liked about them, and it just goes a little bit to what Al talked about last meeting, was that they're totally local, they're totally unfunded. So there's, I mean, of all the grant applications, I think they were the only one with 0 salaries. There's not one person taking it.
And are they the ones that can't even afford an accountant?
Yeah, they have no
Yeah.
staff at all.
It's just, so any recommendations?
I would almost recommend the 5, but I'm a little prejudiced.
Well, but we do have extra money to
Yeah.
give away. So.
Yeah.
I mean, we have it, unless we need to pass it out to some people.
Yeah, and they ran, one thing he didn't mention is they ran out on that 4,000 grant ran out in July. So all these subsidies in Oxnard ended in July.
Oh,
Because
wow.
they literally ran out.
Okay, well,
So,
I recommend the 500.
give them 500 more. Okay, so we'll go Elder Pride, 4,500. So everybody in favor of 4,500?
Yes.
Okay. So now food share, they're asking 10,000. We recommended 2,200, which is the same as we did last year. Any suggestions?
No, I think the decision last time is still valid. And I would make a motion that we stay with the 2,200.
Okay. I don't know that, do we need a motion or just
Just
a
a
show thing?
Recommend.
Yeah, okay, 2,200 for food share, raise your hand. Okay. Then Gray Law, and they ask 5,000 and we recommended giving them 4,000. They're another kind of,
Volunteer, they do have some staff, but they really
Can you
have.
just remind, there's 3 recusing yourselves
Right.
of this discussion.
yeah. So, Kay, and
Yes, sir.
Clark and Kathy can't say anything.
Right.
That's hard, Kathy.
No, I know. It's hard to do.
I just think Gray Law is wonderful, and they're kind of on the same level as Elder Pride, you know, where they're just on a string of prayer, you know, they don't have, if I were gonna give more money, I'd maybe give them another 500, but I don't know.
Alice, what exactly do they do with the grant? What is that go for?
They do,
I know what their services are, but how do they use the money?
A portion of it is
Material.
for staffing, and I believe that's the individual that takes phone calls and makes appointments
Oh,
out
okay.
at the senior centers. 'cause
Because
it
they
is
put on
a
classes all the time to all the senior centers. I'm not encouraging, I'm just saying.
Information.
Yeah, information. So that every senior knows, and it isn't just for seniors, you can have your caregiver come there,
Right.
your
No,
son or daughter take the class for you, or come with you to the class.
Their services are big.
Yeah, no, I'm aware of the
It's
services as one, and I know they're all volunteers.
They
no
refer
lawyers
to a lawyer and
doing
everything.
pro bono. And they're using the money to,
It's big.
provide community
Provide.
outreach, educational
Mhm.
services through workshops, seminars, meetings, media programs. So I
keep their
guess
office
it's
running.
mostly staff. Their expenses are 59% administrative, 1% fundraising, and 40% operations. So it really is salary that we're helping subsidize. So do I have any recommendations? Or you want to stay at the 4,000
I think that's more than enough.
Was it 4,000 that
we recommended last
Okay.
time? Okay, so let's, everybody who wants to do 4,000, raise your hand. Okay. So now we have come to Livingston Memorial. I have to recuse myself from that, but it's recommended 5,500. Kay just made a suggestion that we go 6,500.
It went 4,000. We have the money to, yeah, we need to.
I agree, okay.
Yes.
Okay, so
Raise your hand.
if you, so for Livingston, raise your hand if you go with 6,500 recommendation. Jeff is, oh, okay. Clark,
Is he
Yeah.
recusing? Yes.
you're okay with that?
No.
You're not. So we have one against. Okay,
What would be your recommendation?
yeah, what do you think, Clark?
Well, my thoughts are, and I think I expressed this last time, Livingston has a huge budget. They are very, very good at what they do. And because I visited their facility and talked to the people, and I'm very impressed. But because of the size of their operation and expenditures and budget and so forth, I feel that some of the money, this grant money, could be utilized more on a smaller local basis of the nonprofits. And so I think that the 6,500 is a little bit aggressive, but I'll go along with the rest of the thing.
Say leave it at 65, you can go on.
Okay, so we'll leave it at 65.
Yep.
Okay, so now we have 1,150 left over. All right, so now the ombudsman program. And they are asking 9,000. We recommended last time 4,750. Boy, I could see increasing that. 1,000. We've got the money.
Still have 1150 remaining.
Right. But if we threw 1,000 at the ombudsman program, and then we have $150 left over. How does,
How do you feel? Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
okay, so we'll go,
Who did you vote?
okay, so all in favor of ombudsman's 5,750, raise your hand. Lourdes?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so then we recommended nothing to the Oxnard Dam.
I mean, I don't, they need help because they've never actually requested money before, and so I think they need help. And I wish they could be involved more, because getting seniors out to do something like dancing, it's social, it's exercise, and it's a nice thing. One of the things they're caught up in, I think, is the city had to raise their rental fees, so that it's hard, and that's why they're suddenly starting asking for money. Before, they would charge people for coming, and they could cover all the expenses, but I think the city had to increase the rent on them using, they use the Performing Arts Center. One of the big ones.
I think they deserve something, because
Yeah,
I've been
I
to their dances, and seniors are having a good time. So
But
keep the
my
seniors
opinion is,
active.
we don't subsidize Zumba, we don't subsidize, the other things, and it's a very small percentage if you look at how many people participate in Zumba versus, this is 49 people.
And I think that was the comment last time, that these dance programs are available in senior centers.
Yeah, and it's shrinking, that I've seen dance clubs in Oxnard and they just fold because, so I just don't think it's a viable program.
My thought would be not to give them anything this time. See if they come back to us next year after their program has aged a little bit more, and see how viable that still is.
Their program has been around for quite a few years.
How much do they charge?
My opinion, I agree with you, that you've got an organization, when you're comparing giving ramps to people, helping people to eat, doing this, it's not that it's not valid, but, there are services at all of our senior services, chances for them to go over and exercise without us subsidizing. This is a club, a social club, and I just don't see that when you compare it to all of the other organizations, that it's the best place for us to put our subsidy.
I agree.
Okay, so, the recommendation is $0, so if everybody who approves of that, raise your hand. All right, those who don't, all right.
Raise your hand.
Okay, so now we go to St. John's Senior Wellness Program. They asked for 5,000, and we recommended 4,000. I throw in that extra $150 that we have left over. They do inoculations, they pay the lights at the Boys and Girls Club so they can use that facility. They do a lot of good things, and they have a lot of participation.
Classes, they have classes.
Right.
Different class,
You get the food right back, vaccine.
Yeah. And I know that we gave them 4,000 for years, and when we gave them 5,000 one year, they said, oh my gosh, we can do flu shots. So, I just think we have 150 left over, so can we bump that up to, if it's an odd number, 4,150?
Sure.
Unless you want to take, any money from one of the others. Okay, so everybody who's in favor of 4,150 for St. John's? Okay, so that's unanimous. Okay, and then we go to the VC AAA, and they asked 1,200 or 12,000 for the fall prevention programs. We recommended 5,000. Any discussion?
Leave it at that.
Okay, all in favor of 5,000? Okay, so hopefully Renee,
So let me
is
just go through
your little
this.
spreadsheet?
So action, 2,500. Caregivers, 5,000. Catholic Charities, 5,000. Elder Pride, 4,500. Food Share, 2,200. Graylaw, 4,000. Livingston Memorial, 6,500. Long-term care, 5,750. Oxnard Dance Club, 0. St. John's, 4,150. BC AAA, 5,000.
Comment, Alice and I have to excuse ourselves from AAA. If you want to make that opinion.
Okay, so do we need a motion?
So I have a question. They're recusing themselves. Do you have to go one by one so that they can't vote on the ones that they are recusing themselves?
So let's,
Okay, so this is gonna take,
so I will go through and state the amounts, and then someone will give the motion to approve, and then all in favor. Okay, so action, 2,500.
I can vote on that one.
You need a motion.
okay, Kay makes the motion, Alice seconded it, right?
Yeah.
Look at Alice looking like, I did what?
All in favor?
Aye.
So minus Dennis and Al. Caregivers, 5,000. Make a
I need a
motion.
Make a
motion.
motion.
Clark made the motion.
Yeah.
Kathy seconded it. I'm waiting for you to.
Okay, I'll second.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Minus Dennis and Al.
I'm ready. I'm not typing.
Catholic Charities, 5,000.
Motion
Alice Madrid made the motion.
for 5,000.
Okay, second, who's gonna second it? Kay seconds. Okay, all in favor of 5,000? It's unanimous.
Okay, minus Dennis and Al. Elder Pride, 4,500.
Motion.
Kathy Blanker made the motion.
Second.
Clark Owen seconded,
All in favor?
$4,500.
Dennis and Al recused from that.
Okay,
Food Share, 2,200.
Make the motion.
Alice Madrid made the motion.
Second.
Clark Owen seconded.
All in
All in
favor?
Okay, now Graylaw, Kay and,
Graylaw, 4,000.
okay.
They can vote on those.
So.
All right, we
recused
haven't
from
heard from you. Jeff, you want to make a
I
motion?
would love to.
So Commissioner Nevitt made the motion and Lourdes seconded it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That we do $4,000 for Graylaw. All in favor? No, you said
that. Somebody else needs to say.
And Braille, no.
Yeah,
Somebody-
Lourdes did.
She said, I don't think so.
Yeah,
No.
she doesn't want to give that much.
Oh, she doesn't want to give that
She's
much.
not going to vote.
Okay, so we're gonna have a problem.
Yes.
You made the motion.
Yes.
I'll second it.
Right.
All right. All in favor
Tell me
of
what to
four
do, huh?
thousand, and there's 1, 2, you can't
can't
vote.
do it right off.
Oh, damn it.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4 of us can vote. Is
And
that,
3 voted yes.
So we do need a fourth vote on that,
You need a fourth or a fifth.
a fourth.
a fourth?
1, 2, 3, 4.
Lourdes is
Or
not.
3, what, no, 4.
Well, mine was
But
four.
that's all I can vote.
But there's only
Well, it's
8 here.
it's a majority.
Right.
But you take
Fourth.
3 away from,
I was against it, but I can't.
But that's all I can vote, so what?
But I think that you have a quorum with the number that are here.
Mm-hmm. Well,
And then you've got 3 that are excused, so you only need a vote of 4.
but
We only
we only have 3 votes, because Lourdes
So
is
4 of us voted yes.
No, 3. 3 yes.
3 votes yes. Lourdes, you're voting no, right?
Alice can't.
I just paid 500 for the lawyers they recommended.
Okay, well, we're
We sure do.
short of vote. So, well, let's go on and then we'll come back to that and try and figure out something.
Was it a majority of the
Majority
votes?
that can vote is, are voting. But they
There are
said-
only 4 who can vote.
So we need 3 of the 4.
Yeah.
Would be a majority.
I'll need to check out as far as how the bylaws are written.
Because we have 3 that vote yes.
So
Al,
That's not nice.
Yeah. You're not very cooperative.
we need your vote. How do we?
He might
I
vote
vote against
against
it.
That doesn't,
against it.
Oh, okay, well, then you
I
don't
think
want
so.
your vote.
Good.
Okay, well, we'll come back to Graylock.
Okay.
Okay, Livingston Memorial.
You can.
No, only joking.
It's your criteria.
Keep them locked away.
You've heard about grumpy old men. All right, let's go to Livingston. We're tabling Graylock. Livingston, and I have to recuse myself. We recommended 6,500.
I'll make that one.
Clark makes the motion. Kay seconds the motion to give Livingston $6,500. All in favor, raise your hands. Everybody that can vote.
Right, so Dennis, Al, and Alice.
Okay, ombudsman, the recommendation is 5,750. May I have a motion?
I motion.
Kathy Lanker motions, Kay seconds. So all in favor of $5,700, raise your hand. Okay, everybody.
57.50.
57.50.
57.50.
we raise our hands again.
57.50, all in favor,
Alice,
raise your hand.
Raise your hand. This is our exercise today.
Oh, okay.
I think, well, we can't raise it. It could be all Alabama.
Right.
Livingston's 47.50.
57.
57, okay.
No, no, excuse me,
65.
ombudsman. Livingston is 6,500
Okay.
and ombudsman is 57.50.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I got it.
So the Oxnard Dance Club,
I still go back.
we need a motion not to vote or not to.
Make that motion.
Okay, Clark moved and
Second.
Lourdes seconded to not give the dance club any money. All in favor, raise your hand. And Alice, you vote, okay, so you're against, so that's,
So all in favor minus Dennis, Al, and Alice.
and Lourdes, or Alice Madrid.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. St. John's, the wellness program. It's been recommended 4,150.
Make a motion.
Alice Madrid moves. Kay, Brainerd seconds. All in favor, raise your hand. Okay,
Okay, all in favor minus Dennis, Al.
all right. BC AAA, we recommend $5,000. I have a motion.
I'll motion.
Commissioner Lanker motions. Second,
Oh,
and Clark and I have to recuse
Right.
ourselves. So, raise your hands if you're in favor of 5,000. That's everybody.
Minus Dennis,
Minus.
Ellis, Sweetland, and Commissioner.
This is really painful, isn't
it
it?
is, it's very painful.
That we never recused ourselves in the past. Yeah. Okay, so what are we gonna do about gray law? So only 4 of us can vote. If Dennis was here, he could vote. And, well, Al could vote if he wanted to, but he doesn't.
Is there an alternative suggestion to the dollar amount?
Give some more to St. John.
I'm sorry.
Give some
Give
more to
some more
St.
to St.
John's
John.
and,
The price of the flu shot medicine now.
okay. So
And there's thousands of seniors. that
And I
get-
have a question, even if I recuse myself, am I able to enter the discussion and not vote?
No.
Thank you.
That's my reaction to it, yeah.
I know,
It was sway that.
so there's,
Can we just leave it, this amount until you find out if that's acceptable? Because really, only 4 people can vote and 3 are voting yes, so that's the majority.
Only
So-
four we can send in instead.
Right, so we can go ahead and vote based off of those who
Yeah,
can and will vote, and we'll record it as is.
so that's 4 who can vote, 3, we already know, approve it.
right.
1 abstains, or not,
So
votes
that's
against
a
it.
majority, people voting for it are.
Are Jeff, me, and Alice Madrid. And Lourdes votes no.
Mhm.
Who's voting no then?
Lourdes.
Everyone is voting no other than those 3?
No, only 1 person.
There's only 4 of us who can vote because Kay, Clark, and Kathy have to abstain from Graylock because they're on a committee.
Okay, then I'll reverse my reclusion and vote no.
For this one. You'll
Yeah, just for that one.
Okay, so
So
let's
it's
go
3
ahead and,
against
Graylock?
2.
so let's go ahead and just revote.
Yeah,
Gray Law, 4,000, need a motion,
Motion.
I thought we had.
a second?
Okay, Commissioner Nevin made the motion. Alice Madrid seconded the motion to give Graylock $4,000. Okay,
All in
all
favor?
in favor,
Raise your hand.
raise your hand high.
And
1, 2,
You're joining in?
all opposed,
Yeah. No.
Opposed?
2 opposed. So 3 in favor, 2 opposed.
Yeah, just send it to the city council
Yeah,
that way.
I guess so.
Okay, so you need to turn in your rating tool. I think that we really worked hard to make this an equitable.
I guess we did. Wow.
There's been a lot of growth with the grants this year. If you recall, the committee getting together and redoing the entire grant application, including the rating sheet. There's gonna be a follow-up, 6-month follow-up that will come
Yes,
to the
I think that
commission,
is.
and then a conclusion at the end of the year. So there has been, I mean, there's still room to grow, but there has been some strides that have been taken this past year.
If I'm looking at the score, you know, how I added up my score, and they're all pretty much 28, 26.
but,
We just need these sheets, we don't need anything. Oh, those are everybody else.
Yeah.
I was wondering, how come you have so many?
And what about the grant applications? What do you want us to do?
So you can keep a hold of the grant applications. So the ranking sheets, ranking sheets. So I need both of your
Yeah.
ranking sheets.
I'd like to make a comment about that.
Okay,
I have a little bit of concern about how the grading sheet and put together or what the requirements are. It appears that with the numbers that we put down and the total that we put down, that should have some kind of bearing on how much we give to those particular organizations. Well, when I was going through this, I was looking at it very subjectively. Because I was not only looking at the grant itself, but also with the experience that I had in visiting and talking to some of these people. And the money that we have given to some organizations isn't necessarily a reflection on their score. It's a case we just didn't have that much money to give them. So that seems to be a little bit contrary to what this thing's trying to accomplish. So those are, some of my concerns, and maybe, if we're looking at this thing and perhaps doing any revision or whatever, something like that should be looked into, because I think that with the majority of us, we do look at these grant applications subjectively, not totally objectively, from the standpoint of what should be given out, because we're so familiar with the organizations. That's all.
I think you have a good point, and the only thing I'd say about the forms is that you're giving scores by different criteria, and I think they're not all equal.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them hold more weight. In my head, what's more important is probably different than what's in somebody else's head. No, I'm very much like Al. I think the reward should be higher for very localized services. And some of these larger things, although they do great work, have much deeper pockets.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't need us as much, I guess. And that's subjective. So I don't know that that's, and I'm not in your heads, obviously. So I think everyone has their.
I would like to see the committee puts, on the follow-up. Like we all know, we all love Shop Ahoy, but does Action, Caregivers, and Livingston Memorial know about Shop Ahoy? I'd like to see these people more interacting with one another, or at least be educated about, and this is just one example of Shop Ahoy, of these people like Action, who is building ramps and stuff. Those people obviously have problems getting out. So do they know, and are they feeding information about Shop Ahoy to the people they do ramps?
That's a good point.
And like the Caregivers, the same thing.
When I got the grant from Ventura County Community Foundation, they actually had a reception for the people who received the grant, so we could meet each other and see what each other were doing. It might be something we do after the council.
They might start fighting.
A lot of these are on the BCAA council, and so they meet one another. But, like Shop Ahoy, I'm thinking this food kit that Food Share does, and I thought, I wonder if they know about that. But yet, you get a box of Rice Krispies, you don't get your Kellogg's Corn Flakes.
Right.
So Shop Ahoy is so unique in that they give you specifically,
And
like,
people pay for the grant. I mean, they're discounted, but they're paying.
Yeah.
It's my surprise going with them is I thought they would be picking out the
the
cheaper
cheapest, what's on
alternatives, the
sale.
private label stuff, the store brand. And it wasn't like that. They're getting them whatever they want, but then when they bring it there, the people pay them if they can afford it.
Yeah.
They're supposed to pay them.
Okay, that's a very good observation that you had, Kay. It's called the cross-pollination. How do we encourage? Maybe that should be a challenge that we have.
And that's what I hope the
I'm agreeing with you.
subcommittee takes that as a challenge too.
How do we encourage cross-pollination? Because if one person is using one service, in all probability, they can probably use 2 or 3 of the other services that are available.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's
I
very,
think
very
we
good.
talked
I don't
about
know how
this
we follow up on
before. Like Oasis, do they know what Action is doing? Because they do a lot of the same things. When Action first came to us, they said, we're the only ones in Ventura County doing it, which isn't true. I mean, not to diminish what they do, but they're not the only ones who do that.
I'd like to make that some kind of agenda item for the next time, so we have some discussion on that, because that's perfect. What you're saying is perfect, Kenny. And how do we utilize that? How do we take advantage of it? And it's to everyone's benefit. To everyone's benefit. Obviously, the person who's get the most benefit is the recipient.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it would be a good opportunity also to share our services at the same time, whether it's senior nutrition or senior tech program. So I think between a reception / orientation, because the expectation for this next year has changed, in that there will be a reporting twice that needs to be submitted. So we'll definitely look at setting that up in some sort of reception orientation. I think it's
And
a
you
good idea.
could, you know, during the reception, have people talk about their
Right, a
groups.
round
and-
table.
Around, yeah, kind of thing, and the people, everybody learns.
Yeah, I want to caution you though, I mean, we're giving them such a small amount of money. How much are we going to require of them? You
Well, I'd
know,
love to do the grant. Oh, I don't think, we're even suggesting that.
well,
this
no,
is
but I mean,
Predicated on the grant.
to require their time to come to a reception.
Oh,
We don't know what we're gonna do yet. I'm saying
Yeah.
we should come up with some
It wasn't paid.
observations between ourselves to see how we're going to handle it.
Yeah.
Oh, no,
And I
no.
think everyone's in a similar boat of spreading the word and getting, you know, there's a benefit in us setting something like this up and people attending. I mean, as,
Yeah,
And I went to, and the Camarillo Healthcare District did the same thing when they gave you money to start bulldozers. We all went to, they had a slideshow or PowerPoint or something that was all about them, so that it was an orientation to their services. And then we introduced ourselves and said what our grants were.
I'm not against it, but a couple of years ago when we had that tea in the garden, and we invited our partner agencies. But that was,
Oh, it's different.
yeah,
This is more formal, I think.
yes,
I'm not suggesting any vehicle or any way to do it. What I'm saying is that what Kay said is a great idea, and what we should do is we should follow up on it and see how we can accommodate that. Because if a person is using one of these services that are available, they're probably a candidate, maybe one or two or three others, and they may not be aware of it. So I'm applauding what Kay is saying, and I think that we should take that as a challenge.
I marked it for a future agenda item. So,
good.
yes,
And not come up with a solution today.
Jeff has something.
No, I was saying Al doesn't give out
Your
compliments.
mouth is,
I'll say this.
I heard Al give a compliment.
So let me say.
I was speechless.
you're speechless.
We are 2 months away from the next meeting. To wait to move forward on something like this for 2 months is a very lengthy time. And the award letters are going to be going out in December. The award checks hopefully will be going out soon after that. So I'd like to send some sort of invitation with that award letter, with the checks going out. So there will be a something set up prior to the next meeting. If you are interested in sharing your ideas with that, give me a call. But waiting 2 months will set us back in sending out these award letters and the checks.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you give Renee a call or an email, your suggestion of what to put in the award letter.
Oh, okay.
Or
Have
what
you,
type of collaboration event should occur.
Every year I get invitation from Livingstone and I attend it like twice.
Right.
They have an award ceremony. And I learn all the people that they, an association, organization that they help in the award ceremony.
Yeah, I think most of these organizations, I've gone to caregivers, St. John's has it, you know, it's an appreciation.
Say families.
So there's a lot of.
Okay, well, put your thinking hats on and let Renee know, so that when she writes a letter, she can do something to facilitate. Okay, moving right along, new business,
I have a
yes.
question, Renee. Renee, of all of the cities in Ventura County, are they all as generous as we are with grants? Or do you know who does or who doesn't? Have grants available along the same lines that we have?
I know caregivers told me that City of Ventura gives them $10,000.
And
I don't know.
there was another organization that came and visited with us, Livingston, and I believe they get, is it Livingston, from Camarillo.
Well, no, they may be getting it individually. I'm just saying, are there any cities in Ventura County that have a similar program that we have, where they make available to their senior services commission X amount of dollars to distribute it on a grant basis?
I need to look that up and see. I know that there are other commissions or advisory groups, but I don't know if they are provided funds
I'd like to know
to be
that.
applicant.
Thank you.
They're all a little bit different, but I know that Tammy Glenn told me that they get $10,000.
Or you may be getting individually, I understand that. I'm asking, is there a grant process from the individual cities like we have here, which is very admirable? Very comfortable.
And I think that the other grants, you folks are getting grants from CDBG money.
Right.
It's not through the commission, so it's through city council action.
Yeah, and you know, that's interesting because like, on Buzzman,
Yeah.
she said, oh, City of Oxnard doesn't give us anything, and she meant the CDBG. Yeah, so whether, what the name is of the organization.
But I
it
think
really-
you're asking specifically from commissions or advisory groups, right?
All right, so our calendar, our next agenda item is our calendar for 2008. Normally, we're dark in August and in December. So you have dates?
Yes, so the second Tuesday of each month are noted on this schedule. I would say the only thing that is different is all meetings are here in the Oxnard Library Room B, and no other changes have necessarily been made.
This last year, we did have one meeting at SOC.
And what it was.
I have a comment on it.
Yeah.
I like the fact that we have a meeting at each of the centers, just so that we can, there's not too many of us go to the centers. So I feel that if we at least go once a year to each center and have a meeting there.
I agree.
I think it would be a good idea, just my suggestion.
Yeah, so
Will
you have,
Colonia be open at this time? You never.
No.
We have never been to Colonia.
Possibly, I wouldn't schedule something for them, but we can schedule a separate meeting to, a special meeting for that, but it's potentially in October of 2018, but there's no promises to that. This year, we had meetings at Wilson and SOC due to parking and noise levels. We didn't go to Palm Vista, if you recall, 2 years ago. Having the group was too much noise for, there was a battle between noise levels between participants and seniors, since there wasn't a separate room. So, I mean, we're open to doing that. It's all your decision. I think it's a great idea to visit.
so did a month to have at SOC? Do you have a suggestion?
Let them, depending on
So
their
it's,
schedule.
I think,
We're
you know,
trying
let's get rolling and then let's say April, choose one center and June, choose another center. So
Okay.
Wilson in April.
Okay, Wilson in April, because we have to vote on this.
Wilson in April and South Oxnard in June.
Okay,
Alice, I have a suggestion along those lines. Not dissimilar to other organizations where you invite people to just be there as listeners, or they want to say something for the first 3 minutes. I think that prior to the meetings that we may have at any of those councils, put a little notice up and invite them to join us and then explain to them what the limitations are.
We did include it in this year's calendar. So, you know, having it in our monthly calendars draws a little attention to that. But I'll tell you, seniors are very routine, so getting
No, I
them out of
understand.
their exercise class to come
I
attend
understand.
the meeting.
Maybe if you would like to see how we are
And I
operating.
believe at Wilson, maybe we did have somebody, I recall somebody attending at one of the.
I'm saying encourage them to come.
Along with that idea, I love that idea too, Al, is that perhaps the other ones that we can't go to their meeting, invite the directors here to one of our meetings so that they could come and tell us what's going on at their center. And I think that that would be a good idea, you know,
That's a
for
good
the
idea.
agenda. So that, you know, at the
That's
meetings when
fine.
we're there, at their location, they're telling us about their certain, you know, we give them an opportunity that they're on the agenda. And the ones that we're not able to attend, you know, that they also contribute.
Along those same lines, we're talking about being open and transparent, not that we're trying to hide anything, obviously, we're not. But I think the more people we encourage to acknowledge what we're doing, the more people who are gonna be going back to what Tony said, word of mouth, which we know is very important. I think we came up with two important positions today. One was word of mouth, and one was McKay with the cross-pollination. So I hope that will capitalize on that.
All right, so do we need to vote on this?
Yeah.
All right, so the,
I'm going to take a nasty shot. Too nice.
the,
Have you heard that?
So did the camera.
Yeah, you're live in the
at least we're keeping it. There's no profanity. All right, for the 2018 meeting schedule, it'll be the second Tuesday of the month in the Oxnard Library, with the exception of April 10th, will be at Wilson Center. And are you paying attention to me?
I agree 100% what you just said.
He found out
I
he's
vote
on,
yes.
he found out he's on
And
TV.
You're voting yes, but I haven't finished
I
talking.
make a motion.
June 2nd at SOC.
June 12th.
June 12th
At where?
So.
at South Oxnard Center. And August will be dark and December will be dark. Now you can make a motion.
I make a motion that whatever you're recommending be approved.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll say.
Okay, so Commissioner Clemens moved and Commissioner Lanker seconded that we accept the 2018 meeting schedule as stated. All in favor, raise your hand. Okay. All right, so it's approved. Okay, now we have the next senior services programs and events. And so what do you have?
So I'm gonna actually turn this over to very soon, Deanna.
For me to go first? I'll go first. So last month we had a Tai Chi training in, last month, I think we trained 12 new people. Exciting to see people coming in. I put it up on Nextdoor in Ventura, which is where I live, and I got one person to the training there, and then I also got 2 people for future training. So I'm gonna have to figure out how I get onto Nextdoor in Oxnard. Because I don't live here. It's, you know,
How do I share it with you? I'm on next door.
It was the first time, actually, it's the second time I posted on Nextdoor. And I thought it was getting one new person, and she was really excited. I thought that was pretty good. We also had a new bone builders instructor training last month. We trained 4 new instructors. The federal government offered and the city council approved last month an extension of our grant. Usually it ends March 30th. Now, or 31st, whichever is the last day in March. Now it's going through June 30th, which puts us on the same fiscal calendar as the city. It's going to make our accounting department, finance department so much happier. So that's, it'll be good all the way around. Pickleball. Has to look into pickleball. Do we know what pickleball is?
Yeah, this is the second time in a week somebody's brought that up.
Pickleball is a kind of a combination of tennis and ping pong and badminton. And it's, a lot of cities are using tennis courts that are, you know, there was tennis craze however long ago, and now a lot of tennis courts are empty. So you can buy portable pickleball nets to put up on one half of the court. So you can actually get 2 pickleball, whatever they, what am I, courts, two pickleball courts off of one tennis court. And so I made a presentation before the Parks and Rec Commission about it. It would be on the agenda. So, and they're looking at potentially, or the city's looking at potentially putting the first one here in Wilson. Using that one tennis court over at the Wilson Senior Center, for pickleball. So it's a very exciting new, it's not really a new sport, but it's just gaining in popularity. I played, as part of my investigation, I went to Ventura and played one night. And
Her
there
investigation.
there was a 8 or 9-year-old boy, and there were seniors there, and there was a whole mixed group of people, so it's a lot of fun. So,
It's the
I was
Rage
telling them about pickleball.
It's the rage.
in Palm Springs.
Oh, in Palm Springs, well, definitely we need it.
They have tournaments and
Oh, it's
somebody
big.
just asked me the other day,
Travel.
do I want to play pickleball, and I got nervous.
So like
Wasn't sure where we were going with that.
in Santa Barbara, they converted, temporarily converted some of their tennis courts, and then they made 4 of them permanent. And now they got 8 permanent pickleball courts in Santa Barbara. They've got indoor ones and outdoor ones in Thousand Oaks. And Wainimi, the Miranda Park, they have, 2 of their courts, their tennis courts are now set up for pickleball.
And
So-
our courts are in good shape at Wilson.
The court that's not being used, it's the basketball court, is in great shape. I went and looked at it, it's nice and flat. There's no bumps and stuff like that, so I think it'll be a great place to put it. And I'm excited that we can have some people out there playing. They did this in Simi Valley when I worked with the city of Simi Valley, and it was held in the Boys and Girls Club, during the day, and it was great fun to watch them play. As the court is shorter, it's not as hard to play, as arduous or strenuous as tennis. You're not covering as much space. And you play with, when you get better, you spend $8 on a composite, some other paddle, but there's wooden paddles that you use, and they're kind of, like, the paddle itself is about that big, and the ball is, kind of a wiffle ball, but it actually moves. Wiffle balls don't move, but it's not a tennis ball.
It's soft.
Yeah.
It's soft.
So it's bigger than a tennis ball. Or about the same
No, I don't think it's bigger than a tennis ball. It's small. It's bigger than a ping pong ball. And it's not bigger than a red box. It's been a while since I played. I think it was like,
But like a tennis ball,
Yeah.
with a paddle as opposed to a tennis racket.
right.
And a smaller court.
And you can play singles or doubles.
My nephew, I thought he played pickle with the baseball.
Baseballs don't bounce.
No.
I
You have to
know.
bounce.
It is the new rage at the national conference that I attended a couple months ago. It was the hot topic.
Well, we can't wait to have you
Yes.
demonstrate.
Yeah.
Yes, you must demonstrate first, everything.
That's right.
I am one of those former tennis people, and the one thing I used to be known for was rushing the net. And you can't do that in this. There's a certain distance from the net that you can't hit the ball when you're standing there.
We'll
So
let Al be the
I
referee.
would
He's
get
got
very
his
frustrated while I
right
was
You can't
playing.
jump over either, right?
No, but it is lower than a tennis court or tennis net. So exciting stuff, look it up, it's spelled Pickle, Dall. I mean, and apparently there's some different stories about how it was named, but the story I like is it was invented on the East Coast by families on vacation on an island. And they made up a game to keep their kids busy, and the dog Pickle kept running out of the ball and coming back. So it was pickleball.
Pickles ball.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, and the other thing I just wanted to let you, or make sure you were aware of, I'm on the LGBT Aging Coalition for the County of Ventura. And so we're a group of different service providers for seniors who come together and discuss LGBT issues and trying to make those who are providing services a little bit more aware of the needs, the existence of aging LGBT individuals. We had our first network meeting last month and showed the movie Genocide, which which is an excellent movie. I've seen it before, about, I think it's 3 aging same-sex couples. There may be a trend, I wasn't there, I had jury duty that day. And there might be a transgender person there as well. And just kind of goes through what they're going through now as they're aging and issues that they might have that you might not think about. So we meet once a month and we're working on making sure people in the community are aware of what's happening with that population.
Maybe that should be an agenda item sometime next year. You could give us some information.
Or have the chair of it, or Marcy
Yeah.
on it.
That'd be
Marcy,
great.
purple
And that
hair.
was a committee that started up out of a VC network meeting.
And Marcy had expressed a desire to be on our commission at one time, but I think she's doing, you know.
She's on the board for Compass, which is they're doing counseling for LGBT youth. It's a new startup nonprofit.
Well, it's all to raise awareness.
Right. It's a good group. Good people from Senior Concerns on it and county.
Okay.
So that's what I have. Oh, I'm sorry, one more thing. I was supposed to tell you about the senior summit, right? I didn't go.
Right.
Kim went. My assistant, 15-hour gal, I had her go and we had a table there. And she never left the table. Bless her soul. She was out. She said, I didn't know if I could go inside, so I just stayed at the table. I'll have to be a little bit more explicit with what you can do next time. But there were 270 participants and 34 vendors that were at the summit. So we had a full house, and it looked like a really good program.
It was all about technology.
Yeah.
I went.
Okay.
Did you?
Yes, yes. And I really recommend that everybody go to these senior summits. You know, all I had to do was drive myself to the Wilson Center, and it got picked up, taken out to Channel Islands College. They had a sweet rolls and coffee for breakfast there, and had a speaker at 2 classes they went to, then came back for lunch. And then had another class, and then they take you home. You know, it's just, and the classes were just excellent. This, because it's all on technology, the county of Ventura staff people provided the teachers for the classes. And I learned so much information.
You know, Monique told me that she talked about the apps for brain health.
Oh, I didn't go to those. I just wanted to learn how to use my phone better and how these all apps and are, which, you know, there's hundreds, so how do you know which ones are good or not? So
Sure.
that's one of the things I wanted to learn about.
To me, it's impressive that the board of supervisors put on
They put it on.
an event like this.
Yeah.
It's really impressive.
They said they only do it once every other year, so there won't be one next year, but the following year. When they announce it, really need to sign up. There is a limit to the number of people who can go, yeah, so.
And they provide lunch.
Yeah.
That's probably why there's a lunch.
And the bus ride is even kind of fun. You get to know other people from Oxford.
Were there non-organizational people there?
Not organization, I mean,
People like yourself,
Seniors.
Yeah.
individuals,
Any senior that wants to
so
go.
anyone could go.
it was open to
One
me.
specific for
Yeah.
organizational people.
Oh, like, you mean, oh,
Yeah.
no, anybody was free because people I kind of shared with the people that I do line dancing with here at the Wilson Center. There were a number of those people there.
Great. I'll go next following year.
Good.
Recommend it.
I'll take you.
Okay. Meet you at the bus.
Don't drive if you go. It's not the park.
Okay.
So I just wanted to give an update. We have quite a few events and new programs coming for the month of December. December, of course, is really busy. So December 2nd, of course, we know about the Float and Tamale Festival. Anyone who's been at the Wilson Center recently, I'm sure you guys have seen the seniors painting parts of the floats. Oh, okay. Pass around what's going on. It's really cute. Of course, it's Under the Sea is the theme, and we include the orcas in there. So we have the orcas We have fish with Santa hats on there, we have an octopus, and the tentacles have the programs that we feature on the actual tentacles. So as we're walking through, people can see the programs and services that we offer. I think you're pretty much painting almost every day. So if anybody has a chance, you guys can go through there and see.
Oh, very nice.
They do so well, that's.
Yeah.
Should have won first.
Yes.
That's what I've heard a
Or maybe
lot
they
of.
come back this year.
So, yeah, basically any day, I think anytime there's free time, IDEA has, the seniors who are into it, painting and helping us out in that regard.
For the Halloween party, were the pictures posted, Renee?
For the Halloween party,
Is it at Oxford Seniors, Oxford Senior Service?
the Facebook page, so are you asking if they were posted to the
I
Facebook page?
posted some, I just wanted to ask them.
I don't know, I don't know.
One of us on Facebook?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm currently taking over the Facebook and Instagram, so I'm getting used to all that, so I'm gonna post, I'll post some pictures on there, of the parties. I had a little Polaroid camera that I was taking around for that, so. Let's see, we have intergenerational programming coming as well from St. Anthony's, I have confirmed, so, I believe it's an elementary school class, is gonna come and enjoy, what the seniors are doing at Wilson that day. Whatever programs are gonna go on, they're gonna kind of participate in, and they're also bringing little gifts for the seniors for, to give out around lunchtime. So it'll be really.
What's the date?
December 13th. Yes.
St. Anthony's is gonna be coming to the centers.
Gee, and they're close to SOC too. I wonder if they consider going down.
We're starting out with Wilson just to get it going, and then they are open to possibly going to other locations. But with St. Anthony's, parents can drive the students, so it will give them a little bit more flexibility as far as going from one center to the next. But the teacher that we're working with, she wanted to start out slow and get through the holiday season.
I just want to suggest any musical program, if the kids came and sang, you know, not just for Christmas, but music is such a bridge between generations.
I'll touch base with her and see exactly what she's going to. There's there's also a disaster preparedness presentation that's going to be going on at all three of the centers, different dates in December, by Scott Brewer, who's the emergency services manager. He's going to present to the seniors what to do in case of an earthquake, what to do in case of a fire, different, you know, of course, natural disasters that can happen in California very easily. So, and we've been working on getting that for a long time, so we're excited to have him come and present. Yeah, I don't have all the dates, but 3 different dates for the senior centers. Father Colleen has also confirmed he's gonna visit 2 of our centers. He's from Dignity Health, and he's gonna present on decoding the sacred language of medicine. So that's kind of breaking down medical terminology and the misconceptions that can go along with that for our seniors. So they can come, and he's gonna kind of go on what their questions are and kind of dig deeper, or kind of, you know, backtrack if he needs to as to what, you know, what people have questions on, where they're at in their healthcare, that type of thing.
Father Clean is the chaplain at St. John's Hospital. So Alice and I had met with him a few months ago in one of his volunteers. And the whole idea is to reach out to our population so that when they do see him walking through the halls, it's a familiar face rather than, as he placed it, the angel of death. But, you know, you really create that relationship prior to entering the hospital. And this classes on decoding language. We hear so many acronyms or medical terms in the senior community, let alone any other community. And there's not really an understanding of those terms. So he's a great chaplain, puts on amazing presentations, and he's reaching out to our centers, which is going to be good.
When is that?
Let's see, I have it written down. December 7th at Wilson and December 20th at South Oxnard.
And what's the time?
South Oxnard is 11 a.m. and Wilson is at 10:30.
Good.
And then the last thing I have is, of course, the holiday party. I've been working really hard on getting it to be a great event again this year. We are going to have Dearmore Barbecue cater for us, so it'll be really good. I haven't actually had them, but they had great reviews.
Oh, yeah. They're the best.
Reviews,
Yeah.
sorry. So I'm glad we've had them before.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Excellent.
You say, we're gonna eat at noon, they're ready.
Excellent. So, I also have some sponsors who are donating various items, so that's always very helpful. Our entertainment, we have a bluegrass band that's coming, I forget their name, or the guy's name. Anyways, he's gonna come and sing for us. We have Folklorico again. We have another singer coming as well as a DJ. So there's gonna be a lot of different entertainment groups going on there. So it'll be really nice.
And when will tickets be on sale?
They're already at the senior centers.
Okay, and the price?
$10, same as last
Oh,
year.
really? They're all
Yes.
That's December 14th.
December 14th.
Phil Salzar is the lead in the Blues Blackgrass.
Phil Sal.
Phil
Salzar.
Salzar.
Yeah, and he was dad out at Ventura College.
Oh, Frank.
Right, yeah, and was in the community.
Deanna, when do we need to make our reservations for the holiday party?
Anytime between now and December 1st.
By December 1st?
Yes.
Thank you.
We're also getting it catered this year. So
Yeah.
it's gonna be
Cater.
catered
Cater.
this
Yeah.
year.
She said she's had to move on.
Tickets.
$10.
No, are there tickets?
Yes, at each of the senior centers, yes.
Senior center.
Yeah. So, and I think that's all that I have.
Regarding the tickets, can we also go to the, to your office and purchase them, or no, do we have to go to the centers?
My office is actually at Palm Vista, so you can come to Palm Vista, it's one of the senior centers as well. We don't have any actually in
The main
the
office.
main office, no.
You have to go to the.
Who else there is?
Yeah.
One of the senior centers.
Thank you.
Okay.
It starts at 10. Yeah. We're setting up from 8 to 10, so that's our setup time. That's our scramble.
Okay. Well, it's an exciting month, even though we don't have any meetings. We have lots of stuff going
I'll
on.
have to go down to the center.
Okay, so we have the subcommittee reports. And Clark and I just went to the Ventura County Agency on Aging Advisory Council last week. They have a new, because the meetings tend to go on, sometimes you get somebody who talks a little bit long. And they've made this new, at 11 o'clock, the meeting's over. You know, they just stop. If they haven't finished the agenda, they say, you'll just have to learn about it next week. So I wondered if we ought to keep that in mind, you know.
Please, because I have to leave here at
Yeah,
11.
I watched the walk, and the other thing, you know, they have a strategic plan. It's a 5-year strategic plan for the VC AAA, and they have it on file with the Board of Supervisors. They decided it's too ambitious, and they're gonna rewrite it. So, anyway.
Let's see, but they're not gonna have a strategic plan?
Rewriting.
They're gonna rewrite it because they said it's
To have,
too ambitious.
still be 5 years?
It'll be a 5-year plan, yeah.
I think they're required to have a 5-year plan by the state.
But every year they review it, and I was looking for my notes, but anyway. And what else did they talk about?
They also talked about the size of the commission. And there were some suggestions to cut the number gets thrown out in the air, it's probably gonna be something that's gonna be discussed, at the next meeting in
Could be on the advisory board?
January.
They, there's supposed to be 2 representatives from each community, and then they have a supervisorial appointee from each supervisorial district and whatever. And then we have our general meeting, and then they have these nutrition council, optimal aging, and they're not getting participation. You know, they're not even getting a quorum showing up at these subcommittees. And like I said, I have all my meetings with the city, and then I'm required to go to the one general meeting and then the 2 breakout and then anything else. So they're rethinking, how are they gonna get enough participation that they have a quorum? And people that just don't wanna be on the council to get their name on the letterhead and wanna participate. So they're rethinking that.
Well, and then sometimes people who are representing various groups on there are paid staff at this particular group, and they're on there. Well, I question why the paid staff should be there. You know, to me, the volunteers, there are people.
Well, I
who are
made an
appointed.
impassioned plea, you know, I said, I volunteer, you know, and I'm required to be here. And then city council meetings, and I'm going to that neighborhood council. And I do it all because I enjoy it, but at some point you think enough is enough.
Well, that's why I quit. I mean, I said I need something, because I had just too many meetings. Yeah, they were requiring too much, and I knew I couldn't handle it.
So they're really exploring that. Okay, so that's our report. Kay, what can you tell us? You must have lots of information.
That's the problem.
And I have to say that I just admire what you're doing. You know, what a great committee you've got going, this Orca.
Oh, and the list of things we have yet to do is just,
Right.
as Renee said, the city has hired a project manager. I'm not sure exactly, you know, we haven't worked out the details of how our Orca committee relates to this project manager, but bottom line is, the city has committed itself to to the new senior center by hiring a staff person, to help, get this thing
Don't
moving
you
along.
love it? The city has no money now, they can hire a staff.
Don't complain, it's for the new senior center.
And it's a consultant, it's not someone that's
Right.
actually coming on staff, it's
Yeah,
a consultant.
But
They're
willing to
still
put
getting
money,
paid.
yeah. The biggest thing that we have right now is that we need seed money, which means we need money to, have flyers. We need a phone, we need a post office box. We still have to file some more papers that are with the state and the nonprofit level, and these cost money now. The original getting the corporation going was something that we all out of our own pockets put out for it. But we need money, and so like we figure right now we need about $10,000.
$10,000.
Yeah, but this includes the insurance and everything. But if we could get, ideally 100 people to give us, or 10 people to give us $1,000 each, that would help us really get started. So we need to find these people. Well, we can't just find these people by just, standing still. You have to get PR out there. You have to print stuff that you can pass out. This costs money. So that's where we are right now. And we're applying for seed money for major O money. Is what we're going right now, because there is some possible money there. And we're looking though for other places. So if you know of any places we could apply for a grant to get us this basic money, to let everybody know that we're doing this. You all know this, but if you didn't work on this committee, you wouldn't know. Well, we want every senior to know, everybody in Oxnard and maybe Ventura County to know what they're doing. But we need the money, so we need, and so if you know of anyone, if you know any places we can apply for grants for this money, that's when we need your help.
They promised 25,000 for Measure O.
For conceptual drawings.
Oh, not for these basic kinds of things. Once we get completely, because everything set up, but we need money before we can.
It's a separate entity. It's a separate entity from the city, and that's where
Right.
we have to go over and get our own insurance and everything else because they're separating.
Now, are you still on the Major Road Committee?
Yes, but Major will never meet.
They never meet.
No, this advisory council never meets.
Okay. I'd like to, this is my opportunity to say what I couldn't say earlier when I had to recuse myself. Mike Williams from Gray Law has been amazing on our committee. And those of you that especially voted against Gray Law, as I want you to know that this man comes to every one of these meetings. He is an attorney and he has been instrumental in filing our paperwork and looking into all of this stuff, all volunteering. I mean, this is for our bigger, this big project, which is a major goal of ours that we've, committed to of trying to get a new senior center. And he has been absolutely, we couldn't do this without this man who's representing Gray Law. And I just wanted to say, that's why we had to recuse ourselves from, the work that Gray Law is doing. They're not just going to the senior center, but they are helping us in a huge, huge way through their volunteering. So I'm just going to tell you that, amazing job.
Kathy, I don't think the no vote was against a particular person.
Well, it's not, it's the organization. He's the organization.
Christine Both is retiring, and she'd be great on your committee, and she does not. She's works for ZCAAA, and she's so knowledgeable.
Okay.
In fact, they're having,
She is.
Yeah, December 1st. They just told us.
and they're having a retirement party for on the 20th of the year.
Oh, I got that email that
How will you know?
I know her very well.
You call her and ask her to come join our committee.
that's right, you guys work together.
Yeah, on modification.
I just think, she's gonna be very much to that. She said she's retiring, but she says, I'm still gonna be involved. And I thought,
I didn't realize she was working here, live here.
I don't know.
Okay, you call her and get her
Okay.
to become a member of our committee.
That being aside, yeah.
I just think she'll,
Thank you. See, that's what I want. I want
Yeah.
feedback and names and anybody that you can ask. And I know it has to be, we should move on.
Can I ask you a question? The money that you're trying to raise at 10,000, you're trying to get from public, from just
Public,
individuals?
oh, yeah, well,
Have you
or
thought of-
grants, yeah, but,
or if you have 10,000.
yeah,
Wow.
You need a tax
No,
write-off.
I'm thinking of like a social media,
Yeah,
like a
no,
GoFundMe
if
kind of page.
you
Wait a
give
minute.
us this money, then, then I will file a thing with the state and the federal government. And then in 3 months, I will give you a nonprofit number.
Right, well, what about like a GoFundMe page where people go into social media and raise money for
I've
less
never found
legitimate
that,
things than this?
well, I know periodically they'll say they raise so much that the average person who does that, I have never seen them successful.
Well, people do it for things like,
Well, that's
He's-
okay,
he's-
I shouldn't say no, I should pursue
Well,
it.
I think before we say no,
have an open mind.
You're right, I'm sorry, we should at least pursue it.
And
there's
it's
nothing legally against it, is there, as far as we're concerned for what we're doing?
No.
And I think we should look into it very carefully.
See, we've got a little bit of a problem. It's interesting. It's because we do not have a checking account yet. From the standpoint of if we collected any money, we don't have any place to put it. And we can't get a checking account until we get our fictitious name approved. And we're working on that now, but here again, that takes money to finalize the fictitious name. So it's really a catch-22 from that standpoint. We need the money, but it's going to be difficult to collect it if we don't have an account to put it in.
Yeah, we're gonna,
We're in this in between.
Yeah.
It is a very difficult place, and even with our volunteers, a couple of people that are on our committee, the subcommittee, what happens is that some of us have said, hey, we'll put in $200 a piece to get this going.
But where do you
And
put
then
it?
somebody else says, yeah, well, I don't feel comfortable to do that, you know, and then I'm going to, I don't want to be on the committee now. And so, you know, it's like, and she's like, she's got her expertise in fundraising but she's not comfortable to, you know, put upfront the money. So we're in a very, very difficult position of, you know, because we're, you know, I mean, we're able to go over and say, yeah, I'll put, you know, $200 in it myself. But it's just, it's a difficult time, and that's why even getting new people on the committee at this point, until we get more established, until these little things are taken care of, it's just not a good time to go over and, you know, trying to go out there and trying to raise money. So it's just a really, without this little seed money, that it's just a very, very difficult position that we're in.
And at the city council meeting, I believe one of the subcommittee members has got a hold of one of the council members prior to the meeting.
The night before.
And so he brought up, can the city support this seed money in any way, shape, or form? So we're looking into that with our city attorney to see what are the legality restrictions within that, and is it an opportunity to support?
And regarding that, I mean, please apologize to Ingrid and yourself, because none of us knew that conversation had happened. And it was as surprise to us as it was to you. So just to let you know,
Yeah.
we didn't know about that. That was just like, oh, you know, I mean, where did that come from?
Right.
And that we weren't aware of it, because I don't think any of us would have gone that direction.
I'll definitely pass that on.
Okay, please tell, because, you know, we don't want any embarrassment to you or Ingrid, like, oh my God, what just happened? So that was, you know, so,
What's
Yeah.
happening with the site?
Nothing, it's been sitting there waiting for us to.
So at this point, the project manager is assigned to work on that site. So that's the different assessments. It could be an archaeology assessment or archaeologist assessment, a risk assessment, a noise assessment, environmental assessment. There's all kinds of assessments that need to be done before it goes back to council.
What
At this-
about the airport authority? Did they?
All airport commissions, authorities, boards said no to that location. However,
no, it's, and at the meeting, at the council meeting last time, if Mayor Flynn made it very, he wanted it noted, he was in favor of moving forward with us having the new senior center, but he said, I am against the location at the airport. So he put that on record.
and so with that said, the other 4 council members did vote in favor, which is in line with their previous votes.
And that's supposed to override.
Not yet. They
Not yet.
haven't voted to override.
No,
the
but we're
airport
hoping that.
But yes, that will, 4 votes will override so,
But it just hasn't happened yet.
no, all of these assessments will need.
Now, with the manager being appointed, and there's probably going to be some of these reports that are going to be necessary, environmental, this type of thing. How is that going to be paid?
So that was within that project management agreement, all of those costs are factored in for the most part. We'll probably need to go back to council for some funding, as far as 25,000 isn't gonna cover conceptual drawings possibly. So there will be some items, smaller items, that may need to go back to council for additional funding.
Okay, now with that contract that's been signed, does the city pay his company for the reports that were made up?
The project manager,
Does that come out of the 25,000?
no, the 25,000 is for conceptual drawings.
Okay,
An additional 63,000, with a bumper of I think a total of 68,000 was just recently approved for this section.
okay. Because initially, they were talking about this being totally separate from the city. It seems like there's a slight marriage that's happening now. And I don't want to put any cold water on it, because I want to see this thing go through, and we're working hard on it. But I just don't want to have some something ugly pop up later on.
I had lunch with a former city employee who was upper management. And she wanted to know what was going on, and I told her about the senior center. And the city, the quandary we're in. And she says, the less the city is involved, the probably more successful
Right.
and timely you'll be, because you get bogged down in, look at the sink, how long it took us to get that sink.
I have a question for Renee. Renee, I know this was brought up after the fact, but because we're going to have a meeting tomorrow, and my question is, next year, when we do this of going over and doing the grants, will the Orcas be able to apply for a grant through the commission?
I mean, it's all depending on the commission guidelines as far as the grant application. I could double check with the city attorney to see if.
Yeah,
there's
I mean,
any
that would be, that's
conflict.
just a question of will we be eligible, because we will be a separate entity, and will Orcas be able to apply?
What about CDBG?
Yeah, somebody said also that, but we need to be officially a nonprofit organization, and so we need money to be a nonprofit.
But then we need a grant writer.
Yeah.
We happen to know somebody who does a really good job.
Well, Barbara is a great.
Okay, so
Anyway,
we're 1 minute after 11 now, and I just really, really applaud you. I think you're doing a wonderful job.
Well, thank you. We need that encouragement, because we have so many of these things that come on, and, no, you can't do this, or we need this money before we do this, and we go, oh, where do we go next?
Yeah. So our subcommittee for the awareness of senior population, I think we kind of tabled that until we get the Pepperdine recommendations.
So we have continued to work with Pepperdine. We had a midterm report, progress report shared with us about 2 weeks ago. I want to say 2-3 weeks ago. And they're coming up. I'm impressed with their work. Our final product will have tangibles on top of just a plan on moving forward with marketing. So things like a template for online advertisement or printed advertisement will be provided. But also they are, it's beyond just simply those items. They're in constant communication with Mary Sue and myself. And, as Mr. Miller said with Shop Ahoy, his number one, and we are hearing this over and over from our different presentations, that word of mouth is the number one form of advertisement, but it's important for us to get into people's mouths so the word spreads. So we're looking to see how we can increase our access to the senior population.
Renee, is it possible for the same group that you met with to make a presentation to the subcommittee in January? So that we know what's happening. I don't know what's happening.
So
It's gone dark.
So we can actually share and set up a meeting this month with you and share the progress report.
We may be able to give some assistance to them also.
Right.
Well, and when they make their final report, I think they should be.
Right, so
That would be the opportunity.
But there were other things going on that we've kind of, like building databases.
yes,
Mhm.
and that's
We-
something
We
that
don't know what's.
I actually got a text message from them while we're
You
here. Yes.
You did. We did.
Yes, so
We're in the dark.
we can, what we'll do is, Mary Sue, can you set up a meeting with the subcommittee and we'll share the progress report with them? And then December 8th, they're going to have their final presentation and we can invite the subcommittee members. You all can see that.
December 8th is the final presentation?
Yes, it's per semester.
So the presentation's at the college.
Yeah.
No, it's here.
Oh, it's
I'll be here.
Yes, it's here.
To whom?
To us,
I mean, had we not said anything right now, it would have been to whom?
us,
Us
Mary Sue
being-
and I.
Can we expand that to?
I don't know.
That's what I just said.
Yeah.
You'll send us a little note.
It won't be the entire commission, it will just be the
So
subcommittee.
subcommittee.
Yeah.
So,
December 8th.
yes.
And do you know what time?
That's the Immaculate
Four
Conception.
o'clock.
Okay.
It's not you.
You have a conflict?
I'm on that. Here. Okay, so
I didn't say anything.
the next item is the new and ongoing senior program, including the reopening of the Colonial Center. And that's Commissioner Jackson, Madrid, Sweetland, and you.
Renee is still not here.
I just said, yeah, we have to add, because we voted on her
Oh,
last time.
yes.
So her name should be
Mhm.
on there, but we don't have anything to report. Because we haven't done anything. Hopefully we'll go on a tour over there sometime soon. But we're adding your name, and it's in the minutes that you're on that committee. Okay? Any comments?
I have a question. And this is for you, Commissioner Sweetland, is only because our calendars get so filled and I know this is a very difficult year for you. Are you, by any chance, planning another holiday party by the end of the year or not this year? You're gonna
You know,
pass?
I just thought I would pass
Okay.
this year.
Okay, we totally understand, and that's, but I just was curious of, you
And
know,
it's
just,
hard because I'd love to do it, but I just don't.
thank you.
Yeah.
We'll come see your new house.
Welcome to.
That's why you might have a-
I want a beautiful, I don't have, furniture upstairs, but it would be a beautiful place, so
All right.
See the ocean.
you can see it now, it's beautiful.
Okay.
You can see the ocean.
Oh, yeah.
Do you have any suggestions for future agenda items? We already have the networking of our grant recipients. Anything else you want to add? Okay, can I have a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Okay. All in favor? Thank you. Oh, okay, Al staying. Having so much fun. He doesn't
I
want
I
to-
have some things on all the activities that are going on at Christmas in Oxnard, I'll pass them out to you.